Hello, welcome to Walk in the Park. My name is Tony Ingram, and this is episode 67, recorded on January 22nd. A very cold day today. It was 17 below in Ithaca before the sun came up, and it didn't get much higher than that during the day. This time we're going to have a really good adventure here. We're going to go kayaking in Antarctica. Now, if you had been here on January 1st, well, you might have seen this newspaper. If you're out of town, or if you didn't get the paper, or something like that. And it says, well, let's get in a little closer here. An eye on Antarctica. And this is the front page, and there's a woman on there. This is Trumansburg, a T-Berg woman, worked on stranded ship. That's Louise, Adie, an old friend of mine, turns out. And it turns out that I had interviewed her last month. But Louise Adie is a kayak guide in Antarctica for part of the year. During this time of year, actually. She'll be going down there shortly. And she's done it for 10 years, as she'll explain later in the show. And she happened to work the first 5 of those 10 years, until about 5 years ago, on this ship, which was stranded for a couple of weeks, beginning around Christmas Eve or so, I think it was. It's a Russian-owned ship with an Australian scientific and ecotourism expedition on it that got stranded in the ice. Well, this is that same ship. It's the Akademik Shokalskiy, I think it's called. And this is that same ship, but back more than 5 years ago, when Louise, my friend Louise, who lives in Trumansburg, worked on it as a kayak guide. And the kayak in the middle of the picture there, well, that's hers, and she's in the front. So it's very cool. Now, so here's another picture of the ship from that era. So we're going to actually interview Louise right now. I did that actually last month before I knew that she was going to be in the news. So that ship, by the way, I think just got back to Australia, and which is where it's come from, and people are nice and warm now. Okay, so let's go right to our story about the kayaking in Antarctica on the new ship that she's on. There's a picture of Louise. Okay, welcome to Walk in the Park. Today we are meeting with Louise Adie, talking with Louise Adie, who's an old friend of mine. We used to work together at the Finger Lakes State Parks.
Way back. And
yeah, a long time ago. And Louise has had an exciting career in various ways since, and particularly what she's been doing the last 10 years. Tell us about what you've been doing.
Well, when our two paths diverged all those years ago, when we both took roads less traveled, I guess mine is probably least traveled. I work in Antarctica as a kayak guide, and this is my 10th season coming up.
Wow. Okay. So you've got a slideshow that you take around and show to various groups, museum groups and educational groups and so forth. Your specialty is kayaking, right? So
that's correct. I have been guiding kayaking aboard a number of ships. I worked for one company for 5 years, and I'm with this company now. This is my 5th season with them. This is a company out of the Netherlands. There are many, many companies that bring ships to Antarctica with passengers on them. We are the small ecotourism cruise ships, and we normally have anywhere from 100 to 250 passengers, depending on the size of our ship. These are not the huge, luxurious ocean liner love boat type boats that come to Antarctica. These are the small ones with a shallower draft, biodegradable fuel, so that if anything happens, the fuel is not going to end up tarring and feathering the penguins on shore. It is biodegradable, so it will break down at sea. But we don't have that many mishaps, thank goodness. But it's an operation that's been going on for, this ecotourism industry has been going on for probably almost 30 years now. And for a time, the number of ships was increasing, but it seems to have leveled out. And believe it or not, there are somewhere around 35 to 38,000 visitors to Antarctica every year. But the nature of our expeditions is that we set up our itineraries in July, so that when say for instance you were, if you were to board one of our ships, you probably would not see another one of these ships, or if you did, it would just be in passing. So it's an industry that's geared to creating an environment for people to really get the full impact of the beauty and the stark, pristine character of Antarctica in a very individual and personalized way, so that you will become an ambassador for Antarctica to preserve its special, unique qualities and to monitor the conservation of the last continent, so that it doesn't go the way of all the other continents.
Right.
This is a photo of the ship tied up at the docks in Ushuaia, the southernmost city in the world, which is in Tierra del Fuego, and it's on the Beagle Channel. So
Tierra del Fuego is at the southern end of South America, right?
Yes, yeah, that's the state in Argentina that forms that. I mean, that defines that area. So
Straits of Magellan.
Straits of Magellan are further up north.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
so the Beagle Channel is the landmark that's the furthest south.
Okay.
So basically, passengers will come through the customs and through security, walk down the pier, get aboard our ship. We welcome them on board at 4 o'clock, and we set sail at 6. And we go east in the
4
Beagle
o'clock in the
Channel.
morning, or?
No, 4 in the afternoon.
4 yeah, okay.
And then we go east in the Beagle Channel until we get to the Drake Passage. And usually the ship will start to roll a little bit. And you can kind of tell we're out of the protected waters of the Beagle Channel, and we're now in the Drake Passage. The Drake Passage is about 500 miles across to the peninsula. So we're on the Drake Passage for 2 1/4 days. And very frequently there are storms that come in off the Pacific side and barrel straight down the Beagle Channel right into the city of Ushuaia. And then as we leave, we very frequently will have these very intense rainbows over the channel. We're frequently joined by dolphins at the bow that like to bow ride. These in particular are the hourglass dolphins, and they're very, very uncommon. Once we're out in the Drake Passage, we're joined by a number of seabirds. This is one of the many petrels that joins us. This is the pintado or painted Cape petrel, a very, very beautiful, delightful bird with black and white markings on its back. And these will ride with us all the way from Ushuaia down to the Antarctic Peninsula. So now, if it's windy, then we get blessed with seeing the albatrosses, and that's a really fine moment on it. So this would be maybe a 45-year-old albatross. They can live to 60.
Wow.
Yeah, they can live to be our age. Isn't that amazing? As we travel along and we get closer and closer to the peninsula, we start to see giant tabular icebergs. And this indicates that we're getting into colder waters. And then sometimes, if we're really lucky, we'll catch pods of orca. Now, after we've left the South Shetland Islands, we cross over the Bransfield Strait, and this is where we sometimes go ashore at Deception Island, which is a live volcano.
Over on the left, yeah.
Yeah, and we sail into the caldera of that volcano, which is 7 miles long. It's kind of a bleak island because it's not the kind of place where you really see glaciers. My great-grandfather was the first whaling manager to come to Antarctica in 1905 to begin the 60-year slaughter of whales. It's a dubious distinction, but he was considered Norway's top whaling manager at the time.
Yeah, you draw your heritage from Norway. So,
yeah.
So this is part of your
This is part of our heritage.
Story.
We have his diaries translated from Norwegian to English. So it was noted in these diaries that that a man could stand on deck and look in all directions and see at least 100 whales blowing.
Oh my goodness!
And now, if we see one whale, we feel very, very privileged.
Wow.
It was over 250,000 whales that were slaughtered in just a 60-year period. Well, once we get to the South Shetland Islands, it actually is time to lower the Zodiacs and the kayaks and get very busy. I train my kayakers. I treat all of them as if they're beginners because we're in very alien waters here. It's very, very cold. The water temperature is about 29 degrees.
Oh my.
We're likely to encounter glaciers and icebergs and whales and leopard seals, and everybody really needs to be trained in how to react and how to avoid any kind of tense situation. So we do lower the kayaks off the stern of the ship, and we use teamwork for that. And we drag them with our Zodiacs out into an open water area.
So what's a Zodiac?
A Zodiac is about an 18-foot long horseshoe-shaped
that's what we see
rubber
right here.
inflatable boat.
Yeah.
Yep. So we bring our passengers down the gangway, not gangplank, and into the Zodiacs, the awaiting Zodiacs. And then most of the passengers will go ashore at this point or ride in the Zodiacs for a Zodiac cruise. And with kayaking, we get the kayaks into the water, and then we put our passengers in the kayaks from the water, from the Zodiac, and then we go off, and the other passengers are going ashore and visiting penguin colonies. We'll see Adie penguins, the shortest of the 3 brush-tail penguins that we see, and we'll see chinstrap penguins, which are the tallest, and very distinctive markings with the chin strap. And we do watch the penguins building their nests and resting on their eggs, and fighting off the skuas, which is a type of seabird. So we are in the kayaks and the Zodiacs, and we do get very close to leopard seals and humpback whales. Leopard seals are very curious. They come over for a look. We watch them eat breakfast. They'll tear a penguin to shreds and skin it. They actually flip it around a number of times to get the skin torn off, and kind of reversed but still intact, and then they nibble away with their front canine teeth. They'll nibble away at the flesh. There's plenty of time between our landings to be on the rails, to be up on the decks at the rails, watching in just incredibly beautiful scenery.
Now, but this is in their summer, right? This is in the Antarctic summer.
Yeah, we're down in the Antarctic summer.
So that would be during the northern hemisphere's winter. So this is what
Right.
February or something we're talking about?
Yeah, and it's very much like a February day in Ithaca.
Yeah.
The difference is that it's exceptionally dry, so you don't feel the cold quite as
really?
badly as you do here.
Oh.
Minke whales. There's a dwarf minke whale that resides in Antarctica, a species of minke whale, and they're very curious. So they'll spend a lot of time with us. They'll follow us around. So we do get very close encounters with many different forms of wildlife. Wow. Humpback whales are frequent in the inland waterways, and they're not intimidated by the kayaks. Of course, we sit very, very still, let them come to us. I had one come up right out under my hand one time.
Wow. Yeah.
It's an encounter with a wildlife with wildlife that it just crosses all the borders.
Yeah.
And it's very humanizing.
Well, they're intelligent creatures. So
they are very. I actually had one time a whale that was on its back, floating underwater, and it came right under my kayak. Its pectoral fin, the pectoral fin is anywhere from 15 to 18 feet long. And this fin was underneath my kayak, and it was just moving ever so slowly. And when I looked over, here's the belly of the whale, under the water.
Reversed, yeah.
Right there. I could have touched it.
Wow.
And it was that close to me, but it didn't flinch. And it never knocked me over. So after that experience, I know I can trust them 100%.
That's amazing.
We do see fur seals, and all of the seals feed on these gigantic jellyfish. We do see occasionally the steel-hulled and aluminum-hulled sailboats that come down from Ushuaia, bringing guests, and sometimes they're climbing parties. They'll drop anchor and climb for 6 days or so, 3 days, whatever.
Climbing mountains?
Yep. We see gorgeous icebergs with tunnels in them. We see amazing icebergs in all shapes and forms, clear ones, blue ones, white ones. We can get fairly close with the Zodiacs, but not with the kayaks. If one were to capsize or fall apart, we'd be in big trouble.
Yeah. Right.
That's about as close as I ever want to be to
oh my gosh,
an iceberg. But we do kayak around in the between the icebergs and in among the brash ice. that comes down from the glaciers and off the icebergs. And the length of our trips is generally 10 days. So basically you get about 6 days on the peninsula. 6 days of landings, and we're never in the same place morning and afternoon and evening, because we're always on the move. We stop, drop anchor, passengers go ashore, or we go kayaking, then we're back on the boat for a meal, and then we're off to the next landing. We do get to climb every now and then, and when we do, we get some gorgeous shots across the way and down into a glacier. We get very, very close to the penguins. These are Gentoo penguins with the white band over their head. Every once in a while, one will jump on a Zodiac with us for a ride if it's been chased by a leopard seal and is trying to find, get away from the leopard seal. So sometimes we get iced in. We'll get to a channel that's choked with ice and we can barely move. And if the ship actually grinds to a halt, then we have to back up and get out of there. Occasionally, it'll be loose enough where there will be a favorable current that can actually help us get through that channel. Not always. I've become the ship historian because I've listened to so many lectures over time, and there are times when we don't have a ship historian on board, so I'll take on the role because I have an interest in it. So I give the Shackleton talk. I give the talk about my great-grandfather being the first whaling manager down there, and I give a talk about Amundsen, the first person who actually made it to the South Pole.
Yes, Norwegian.
Yes.
Right.
Right, of course. So you can see there's quite a bit of attraction for me in Antarctica.
Yeah.
This is a photo that I always like to show toward the end of my slideshows. It shows just a mountain peak.
Oh, up there.
But we're already 2 hours away from Antarctica and leaving.
Goodness.
And I call everybody out on deck to see their final. This is 4,000 feet or something or more.
You can barely. It looks like a cloud or something.
It does.
It's just right of center. Upper. Just draw a line through the center of the picture, up and down.
Right, and the weather is below it.
Yeah.
So those are the peaks that stick out above. Then we're back out in the Drake Passage for another 2.5 days until we get to Cape Horn. We don't actually get to see Cape Horn on our way through because it's in Chilean waters, and we're flying under an Argentinian flag, and they've made a 12-mile limit. But if you should ever be so lucky as to get to Cape Horn, there's this gorgeous, gorgeous statue or memorial of an albatross with a beautiful poem. I am the albatross that sails on the winds, and I can't tell you the whole thing, but if you just look up Cape Horn Memorial Poem, you'll get it. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a memorial to all the sailors who have lost their lives at sea around Cape Horn.
Somebody just wanted to do a trip like this. What would they do? How would they
Well, you could just very easily find any number of companies to go with. Our expedition leaders and our staff, our naturalist staff, are also top flight. And we give lectures aboard the ship when we're not, sailing, or when we're not dropping anchor, rather. So basically in the Drake Passage is when we give our lectures. And sometimes we'll give mini lectures at night based on what we've seen in the daytime. And we have quite a large staff, actually. We have anywhere from 7 to 11 staff, depending on how many passengers we have on the ship.
Right.
So you might be lucky and get on a ship with 75 passengers or 110, but it's all small and intimate, like a community. And I like to call, whenever I make announcements, for instance, over the air, I like to open it with friends and neighbors. Good morning, friends and neighbors. Because by the end of the trip, we are friends and neighbors. You know how when you come out your door, you see people and you know them by name. And you know a little something about them. Well, that's how we are. We're friends and neighbors.
What's the name of the company?
Company is called Oceanwide Expeditions.
Oceanwide Expeditions.
And the ship I've been on is the Plancius, which rides beautifully in the Drake Passage. Not all ships do, but this Plancius really does. And the Ortelius is the ship I'll be on this year, also with this company, and that one rides well in the ocean too.
Uh-huh.
So that's another reason.
When are you going back to Antarctica?
I head back down this year, early February.
Uh-huh.
So actually, no, that's late January.
Late January.
So I'll be there for the last part of the season, which I love. That's
Yeah.
my favorite time to be there.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So for a
Yeah.
couple of months then.
Yeah, a couple months.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah. In addition, I drive Zodiac as well. So when we don't have kayak operations, I'm driving Zodiac. When we're in the Falkland Islands, I have one trip to the Falkland Islands in South Georgia, and that's another whole slideshow.
Right.
And I'm driving all the time then because we don't kayak there.
Yeah.
The swells are quite large, and it's very, very almost impossible to land a kayak on shore or to be anywhere near shore when the swells are that large. So I've taken you on a trip of Antarctica, and I do have to say that for most passengers, it's a very spiritual experience. When they come back, they're filled with a sense of wonder and a desire. I think many people will then join various organizations that work hard to protect Antarctica.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that would really inspire that. Yeah.
Yeah. For instance, we have occasionally we'll have an auction on the ship for Save the Albatross, and I will knit a hat especially for that event with colors of Antarctica and mountains, snow-capped mountains and waves, on this hat.
Uh-huh.
And I knit 3 hats for 2 Save the Albatross auctions, and they brought in like $1,200.
Wow.
So there are people
That's
who
great.
bring money with them and are, very happy to share it in that way.
Yeah.
So
Great.
for those people who really would like a budget trip to Antarctica, that can be done too. You get to Ushuaia and you plan on spending a week to 2 weeks, and you wait for room aboard a ship, and it's called Last Minute Antarctica, and you get about a 40% reduction on the price.
Uh-huh. Wow.
So just
hang out in Ushuaia and go out and have a little cerveza somewhere. And
yeah, yes, and eat a lot of meat. Yes, they have great barbecue. Wonderful wood-fired barbecue, and you can get any kind of meat. It's really good. Yeah, and lots of great hiking and backpacking around Ushuaia. And ice climbing, I've done some ice climbing there too, and crevasse rescue training and so forth.
Right.
Yeah, it's all there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Louise.
Thank you, Tony. It was a pleasure to share it with you. I know we've talked about it over the years, but
and I've
until
seen your pictures and so forth, just here and there when you post them and that kind of thing, but to actually get a more in-depth view,
a more intimate feel for it. I hope.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's nothing like being there, but it's
nothing like being there.
It's a little taste, and it's like it's great. It's wonderful. So. Okay, so that was pretty neat. Louise is available for slideshows, illustrated talks. She has new pictures every time, and she gives on several different subjects. So if you're a group that would like to have a speaker, or like a museum, an educational group, a senior group, whatever, she hires out, and she goes to all over New York and New England. So I think I had her contact information there on the end of that video. Thank you very much for joining me here at Walk in the Park. I guess I don't need to do that. Let's see. Get my chin over that. Episode 67, January 22nd. You want to see all my episodes? Go to walkinpark.com.